And with the chairs might move.
Hey, he's got a shoe.
You can't touch her, can you?
That
That is way too easy.
They're already there, Ryan.
This doesn't seem fair. How is that fair?
Oh, I felt it.
Are you sure? Hey! How long was that ride?
Third time.
Rylan, you got the candy bar. Alright, Rylan, you already lost. Go ahead and take the blindfold off, Rylan.
Stop.
Here you go.
You made it, Rylan.
Alright, great.
What?
Alright, let me have the blindfold. Alright, so when you're walking by yourself, Rylan, is that very easy to do?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Did you win?
Yes.
No.
But I found
All the opposite of things you said. No, you didn't win, right? Because what do you need? What at times do you need from people?
Help.
Help. You need people to lead you. You need people to take you. So we're going to talk about the purpose of refuge, why we're here, what we're doing, right? Because if we're just coming for an hour and a half and hanging out and doing nothing, does that really benefit anybody? Is that a waste of all of our time? It's a waste of my time. And we're going to talk about Andrew, why Andrew matters. All right, so the first question I have is this: who is Paul? Huh? Apostle. Paul was an apostle. What else about Paul?
Got his name changed.
He got his name changed.
He was a
He used to be Saul.
He used to be Saul. He was a persecutor of Christians. What about after he became Paul? What are some big things that he did after he became Paul? He wrote a lot of stuff. Right? What else did he do? Did he witness to a lot of people? Start a lot of churches? Right? So after he became to Christ, he did a lot of great, incredible things. Now, who is Peter?
He walked on water.
Peter walked on water. He was also an apostle. What else about Peter?
We also wrote a lot.
He was a disciple. He also wrote a lot. Right? What did he do on the day of Pentecost? Close. Starts with P.
Preach.
Preach! How many people came to Christ on the day of Pentecost? 3,000. 3,000 came to Christ on the day of Pentecost, right? Because of his sermon, because of his preaching. We know that he went off and witnessed to a lot of people. Now, the question is, who was Andrew?
Someone that not a lot of people know about.
Some do, a lot of people don't know about. What else about Andrew? Some dude.
I'm guessing he was a helper. Was he an
He was a
apostle?
disciple. He was an apostle. What else about Andrew?
He preached? No.
What else about Andrew? What else do we know about him?
Not very much.
Today?
That's it.
Okay. You're gonna
Pretty
learn
dope guy.
something. You're gonna learn something today. Alright. Andrew was an apostle. He was an apostle of Jesus. A couple other things about Andrew. Andrew was actually the first apostle. He was the first person who Jesus called. He was number one, numero uno. He was the first person to follow Jesus. He was also one of the four that were closest to Jesus. We see a couple times that he's mentioned that he's with those four. He's with James, Peter, and John, and he's in that group. He's one of the tight-knit guys with Jesus. He's mentioned in the Bible 12 times. And some of those, a large number of those, are simply a list of the apostles. And he's in on that. But we first meet Andrew in John chapter 1, verse 38. So get your Bibles. Give those. I need somebody to read 38 through 42.
I got you.
Alright, do it.
Jesus turned and saw them following and said to them, "What are you seeking?" And they said to him, "Rabbi," which means teacher, "where are you staying?"
Through 42, I'm sorry.
Wait, what?
Through 42.
He said to them, "Come and you will see." So they came and saw where he was staying, and they stayed with him that day, for it was about the 10th hour. One of the two who heard John speak and followed Jesus. And Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, he first found his own brother Simon and said to him, "We have found the Messiah." He brought him to Jesus. Jesus looked at him and said, "You are Simon, the son of John. You shall be called Cephas."
Alright, we meet Andrew. Andrew's the first one called. What happens here is they are following John the Baptist, him and his buddy, And John the Baptist, when he sees Jesus, you guys remember what he did? Basically points at him and says, there's the Messiah, that's the one you should be following. And Andrew and his buddy go off and follow Jesus. And what's the first thing Andrew does after he's met Jesus? It says, first. Verse 41, he first found his brother. And what does he do?
It says we have found the Messiah.
We have found the Messiah. He takes him to Jesus. The first thing he does is he goes and finds his brother and says, man, we found the Messiah. We got him. This is the guy we've been waiting for. Andrew's greatest accomplishment was bringing Peter to Jesus. The greatest thing we see Andrew do in all of Scripture was this. He brought Peter to Jesus. Remember, what does Peter do? What did Peter do after he became a Christian? He preached, he witnessed, he performed miracles. Man, he was the guy who was the foundation of the early church. He was the guy they built upon, right? Because he was crazy and just bullheaded. So they were able to build upon that, and they were able to pursue the gospel. In this, he's here because who brought him? Andrew. Peter's here because Andrew brought him. We meet Andrew again, also in John, but I'll just read it for us. Now among those who went up to worship the feast were some Greeks. So these came to Philip, who was with Bethsaida in Galilee, and asked him, Sir, we wish to see Jesus. And Philip went and told Andrew, and Andrew and Philip went and told Jesus. What happens? What's happening here?
Everyone's hearing about Jesus.
Everybody's hearing about Jesus? The Greeks come to Philip and they say, man, we'd like to meet Jesus. And what does Philip do? No, he didn't just take him. Where'd he go? Where'd he go? No, where did Philip go? He went and told Andrew. Philip's not really 100% sure what to do. These Greeks go up and say, man, we'd like to meet Jesus. And Philip's like, okay, well let's figure that out. And he goes and tells Andrew. And Andrew's like, man, what are you doing? What'd you do? Takes him straight to Jesus. Let's go meet Jesus. You want to meet him? Let's go meet him. Andrew takes him straight to Jesus. Andrew brings many people to Jesus. The only times really we see him in Scripture is he's doing what? What do you think? He's bringing people to Jesus. He's constantly taking people to Jesus. He's constantly bringing them over there. He's constantly walking in that direction. He's constantly telling people, man, I found the Messiah. Come check him out. Come look at him. Come see what's going on. We never read a sermon, a letter, a book, a miracle, or big outreach from Andrew. We have none of that. Nowhere in Scripture will you see that. He didn't write a book. He didn't do some big sermon. Right? We don't see some big miracle by Andrew. The only thing we see Andrew do is bring people to Jesus. We see it again. Now the Passover, the feast of the Jews, was at hand. Lifting up his eyes then and seeing the large crowd was coming toward him, Jesus said to Philip, where are we to buy bread so that these people may eat? And he said this to test him, for he himself knew what he would do. What has happened here? What's happening right here? Beginning of this. Jesus is testing who? Philip. This is the feeding of the 5,000. So there's a 5,000 plus crowd standing out there. And Jesus looks at Philip and says, listen, I'm going to need you to run down to Cece's right now and go bring a lot of pizza. What do you think Philip does?
He gets a little bit. He gets that little basket.
He doesn't get
He gets a little basket of food. What do you think he does? What would you do?
He gets all the pizza, eats most of it, and brings some of it
Eats
back.
most of 5,000 people worth of pizza?
He eats
Philip
most
is
of
talented.
it.
Right. What would you do? Huh? What would you do? Tommy, if I walked up and you said, listen, I need you to find food for 5,000 people, what would you say?
I don't got that much money.
I got that money. Right? What do you think Philip says?
I don't know how to do that,
I don't got that much money. Philip answered him, 200 denarii worth of bread would not be enough to each of them to get a little. 200 denarii. I looked it up, that's $14,000. The parents would have to sell their car. Right? $14,000. And he's scratching his head saying, listen, we can't do this. But we see Andrew, one of his disciples, Andrew, does what? He brings the boy who's got the food. He steals the kid's lunch.
Yeah.
He comes walking up. Philip was like, listen, I don't know, we're not going to be able to get this much food. You're just going to have to not worry about it. And Andrew comes up with what? What does he say, verse 9?
Verse 9.
There are 5 barley.
And what does he say there at the end?
Why are they for so many? What are they for so
But
many?
what are they going to do for so many people? What are these 5 fish, or what is it, 3 fish? 2 fish and 5, what's even worse? And 5 loaves of bread, what are they going to do for 5,000 people?
Faithful chicken.
Does he know what's getting ready to happen?
No.
He doesn't have any idea. But what does he do?
He breaks it and makes a bunch.
What does Andrew do?
Brings it to you.
He brings it to Jesus. He says, listen, this is all we got. This is life. This is what it is. Versus Philip, who says, I don't have that much money, like we're just not going to have to worry about it. And then Jesus says, have the people sit down, and there was much grass in the place, and he sat down, the number was about 5,000. We know that Jesus multiplied this, right? Feed everybody. But who brought them? Andrew. Andrew brings them to Christ. Andrew's constantly bringing people to Jesus. That's what he does. Andrew brings the food to Jesus. He steals this boy's lunch. He's like, Jesus, this is all we got. Hope it helps a little bit. He brings these people to Jesus. Right? Do you guys have to have it all figured out? Do you guys have to have the whole Bible memorized? Do you guys have to have passages and verses and all this stuff memorized? No. Do you guys have to be able to write and articulate super well and talk and be able to witness to hundreds of people for you to be effective?
No.
No. So why is Andrew important?
Because he brought people first.
He brought people to Jesus. First thing he does is he grabs Simon Peter and says, man, I found the Christ. That's it. That's all he says. We found the Christ. The Greeks say, man, we want to meet Jesus. What does Andrew say? Come on. Jesus says, man, we don't have enough food. What does Andrew say?
Here's some.
I took this boy. He's got food. See what happens. Right? He's constantly bringing people to Jesus. So that's why that matters to us. And that's why that's important to us. And we get to the purpose of Refuge. Like I said, we're not aimless. We're not just hanging out here for an hour and a half. Our purpose, and my purpose of being here, is to help students find and share Christ. Why does Andrew matter to us? Why is Andrew important?
Because without him, we might not have all the disciples.
To an extent. He what?
Without him, we might not have all the disciples.
Without him, we might not have all the disciples. And what did he do to get all these guys? What did he do to get these people? He just brought them to Jesus. Did he have to have some big speech memorized? Did he recite passage after passage? Did he have all of Jesus' sermons memorized and told them all about them?
Nope.
What does he do?
He just
Right,
goes
so
to
come
the
on.
Literally, that's all it says. He says, come on, man. Come on. He's right here. Come on, hang out.
It'll be a nice time.
Andrew is important because Andrew kept bringing people to Jesus. We don't have to have a book written by him. We don't have to have a big letter written by him. We don't have to have some massive sermon from Andrew telling us about our life and how to live. Andrew exemplified what we can do. Just bring people to Jesus. And we get so caught up sometimes, we get so worried, and we think that, oh, we got to have this all figured out, or oh, I got to have hundreds of verses, or oh, I got to have this huge discipleship thing figured out, and this evangelism program figured out. You don't have to. What do? What are some things you can do? Bring people to church. What are some other things you can do?
Read the Bible.
Read the Bible too? Talk to them. When you have somebody asking questions, what do you tell them?
Go to someone more intelligent.
Go find somebody else. No, what do you, I mean, that's,
Read the Bible.
Show them about the resurrection.
tell them about Jesus. Tell them about what He's done in your life. Tell them about what's going on. Inviting people to church is a huge part of that. So you don't have to have it all figured out to change people's lives. You don't have to have it all figured out to change the world. Because Andrew brought Peter to Jesus, he changed the world. We got to understand that. Because he brought him, the world was never the same. Because of that. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to have all this stuff listed. Now, we will continue to study evangelism. We'll continue to study verses. We'll continue to grow in knowledge because that's outrageously important. But don't get caught up in that and think you have to have all that in order to bring people to Christ. Right? Just bringing people to Jesus can change the world. Just bringing people to church can change the world. Just bringing people to Christ, just encouraging people to go to church. And what I told the high schools, I'll tell you guys, I don't care if they don't come here. That doesn't hurt my feelings one bit. If you meet somebody in Wellington and they have a church close to them, tell them to go to that one. If you have a friend who has friends at another church, another youth group, another place, tell them to go to that one. But what you guys need to be understanding, what you have to understand, is inviting people and telling people about Jesus can change the world. You don't have to have it all figured out. Andrew exemplifies that. Andrew shows you what the power of just saying, man, come meet Jesus. Go find him. Can do. That's all he does. Application, you don't have to be Billy Graham to bring people to Jesus. You You don't have to be able to speak to thousands of people. You don't have to be able to talk super well. You don't have to have that all figured out to bring people to Jesus. You know how Billy Graham got crowds there at his crusades? People brought him. People brought him. Thousands upon thousands of people came to Christ because they brought them to see Billy Graham. Does that make sense? You don't have to be Billy Graham, but Billy Graham needs people, or he did, and these speakers need people to bring people so that they can come to Christ. Right? Because of Andrew, we have Peter. Because of what Andrew did, we have Peter. We have the foundation of the early church. We have somebody who witnessed and changed and radically changed the world because of Andrew. Had we not had Andrew, I don't know if we would have had Peter. But because we needed Peter, who did Jesus call first?
Andrew.
Because he knew Andrew was going to do what?
Yeah.
He was going to go get it.
He's a go-getter.
Go get it. Does that make sense? So as you guys go to your schools and as you guys go out in your life, don't get so caught up in the nuances. Don't get so caught up in trying to have everything memorized. Man, tell them about Jesus. Invite them to church. Encourage them to go to church. That can change somebody's life and that can change the world. Don't be so caught up in the fact that you see all these people and they speak well or talk well or know all these Bible verses. Man, you don't have to have that yet. That's okay. We don't see anything other from Andrew than, hey, come see Jesus, and I took this kid's lunch. And let me tell you, when he took the kids' lunch, did he have it all figured out?
Yeah.
No, what did he say?
He just said, I got this kid, so what to do?
What does he say exactly? Listen, we're almost done. Into that verse. What does he say? Very end. But what are this going to do for so many? Did he have it all figured out?
No.
Did you have to have it all figured out?
No.
Man, just bring him to Jesus. Let him deal with it. He had no idea what this little lunch was going to do, but he said, you know what? Here it is. Let's just see what happens.
Let's have a big table.
He must have had a large table. It's almost in the grass. Does that make sense? Do you kind of see what we're doing?
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's why Andrew mattered. Even though you guys didn't have any idea who he was, he only has 12 verses written about him. Andrew radically changed Christianity, radically changed the world because he brought people to Jesus. That's all he did.